years ago, we decided that what the world needed was a better way to make small lidded boxes. Did a little research and found out that there was a name for small lidded boxes, an old English term, and it's called Treen. Treen refers to boxes like this and also other small wooden things, in other words, things made from a tree. And it covers spoons and small carvings, mostly used in the kitchen, places like that. But the boxes and bottles, wooden bottles that were made, were used to hold all sorts of things, matches and needles and sewing equipment and so on. Anyway, we thought the first thing we needed to do was find a better way to make a lid for a box so that if we made a mistake making the lid, we didn't ruin the whole thing. And for that purpose, as you can see in this one right here, we decided to make the lid and the stopper two separate pieces and put them together with a little screw. And that's what we did. This is the stopper, this is the decorative lid, and then we have in our Treen kit a couple of sets, 3 sets of male and female threaded parts so that we can put the pieces together. Now the nice thing about this is if you're turning your stopper and you get it a little too small, you can throw it away and make another one. And you won't have to make the whole lid and the decorative lid and all the rest of it at the same time. So our Treen mandrel is right here. This is the way it comes. It has instructions. It has 2 different mandrels in it, and I'll talk about both of them. It also has a number 2 Morse taper or a number 1 Morse taper, depending on what size lathe you got, and some hardware. In addition, it has a piece of cork that's in here behind us, but I can't, oh yeah, here it is. A nice little sheet of cork comes with it because we have a way of making joints for the stopper that use cork, which makes a very nice, makes a nice seal for the stopper. Now the mandrel itself, right here is one, and it has the number 2 Morse taper already installed. That can be easily changed with Allen wrench. You just loosen it up and take it off. Now you'll put this in your lathe in a minute and we'll show you how that's turned. But first, we have to have a hole in our block of wood so that we can fit it over the Treen mandrel. And there are several ways to do that. You can take a block and bore it on your drill press, but sometimes that doesn't work too well because when you bore large holes on the drill press, frequently they want to lead off and get crooked. The other thing is, of course, that you've got to hold it very steadily when you're boring on your drill press. That means you've got to clamp your block some way on your drill press table so that it won't spin around and hurt your hand. What I'm going to do here is bore it on the lathe, and this is a very nice way to do it. It generally tends to make the holes a lot more concentric and centers them up just right. Now I've got a little 4-jaw universal chuck here. I think this is a one-way, and I've got a block of wood already in here, and I've started to drill a hole, and I'll go ahead and drill a little bit more on it so you can see how this works. Now when you bore your hole here, you will find that your tailstock doesn't have quite enough reach to bore the whole thing from clear to the bottom where you want it. So you'll have to bore a little bit and then bring it up and then bore a little bit more like I'm doing here. Anyway, I've got a mark on my drill so I know just how far to drill in. You want to leave about a ½ inch in the bottom. And then when you bore your hole, you can pull it out. The bit that I'm using here is a well, they're called, sometimes some people call them sawtooth bits, sometimes they're called multi-spur bits, but this is a very nice bit. We sell these. They're high-speed steel. They're very inexpensive, and I highly recommend them. We make them from 1 inch, or we have them available from 1 inch clear up to 2 inches in 1/16 increments. So you can get about any size you want, and they're an inexpensive way to bore large holes. Now we've got the hole bored in this blank. The next thing I'm going to do is put it on my Treen mandrel and turn it to the shape, the nice shape that I want. Now I've got my Treen mandrel here with the number 2 Morse taper, which is what this lathe, this is a jet mini lathe, what it takes. And I'm going to sock that in there and take this block that we just drilled and slide it right over the mandrel like that. Now, this mandrel is sharp at the bottom edge. It doesn't have any teeth in it, and I thought when I first came up with this idea that I would have to cut teeth in here so that it would grab the bottom of the block, but it turns out I found that you don't need teeth. Just being sharp is enough. It'll bite right into the bottom of this block and hold it quite securely for turning. So anyway, I'm going to put that on there, and then I'm going to bring my tailstock up. I better put my center in there. This is a standard live center. Now, there are 2 ways to do this. I can bring my live center up and clamp it into the bottom of the piece, but that will make a point. And you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you don't care about having a little dent in the bottom of your box. But if you want to do something a little snazzier, you can turn yourself a little cover like this. It's blunt on the bottom. It fits right over the live center. Then you can bring that up and tighten it up. And now it's held very securely in your lathe. Now at this point, because I was boring, I was using the lowest speed I could. I'm going to speed my lathe up to do the turning. So I'm going to run it up to about 1800, and then we'll make some chips. All right. Okay. Now, as you can see, it turns very nicely. It doesn't slip as long as the tailstock is tight. It does a very nice job of holding it. Now, the other advantage to turning on a mandrel like this is, particularly those of you who've turned pens know, the part that you're turning is held very securely over this steel mandrel, so you can turn it quite thin because it's not going to flex or collapse on you. So the neck of it wants to be turned right down to the way I start out, to about the diameter that I think I want, just like that. And then I'll go ahead and finish the decorative turning. Now that's going to take a little while, so I'll go off camera until I finish that, and then we'll proceed from there. Now I finished my turning here and sanded it down, so I have what appears to me to be a pretty decent design. So I'm going to pull that right off of the mandrel. And you can see we have a nice thin part. And the fact that this is pine means that it's fairly weak, and it would be difficult to turn this without a mandrel inside to keep it nice and steady. So we have that part turned. And the next thing we're going to do is make the stopper.